Let's look at some of your work actually from Toy Story 3. Here's a sequence called Gambling Den.
Yeah, this is a sequence where Buzz, follows the Lotso's gang, and then he climbs up on this vending machine, and vending machine has this kind of yellow, sickly kind of light. In this movie, I had this yellow as a sort of symbolic color for certain story points, but which we'll get to that in our lesson 9. But this really pushing the mood of this mystery of like, what are these guys doing? Because at this point, nobody knows that if they're good guys or bad guys, and Buzz is about to find out. And this kind of sickly yellow, atmospheric, kind of dusty interior of the vending machine. I kind of wanted to create this gamble, like a casino, like underground casino feel. Even though there's nobody smoking, you feel like there's just smoking.
There's a thick atmosphere. I mean, considering the scale of these toys, like there's a lot of atmosphere in this little kind of upstairs area of this vending machine. But I thought, it definitely has that feeling of the atmosphere, but it also, because of the lighting, feels a bit cross-processed almost. Like we're desaturated, like Buzz and that light looking up feels almost desaturated.
Yeah, I do a lot of that sort of color processing after I complete the painting sometimes, especially if I'm not quite getting the feeling. Painting things sort of realistically and believably is definitely one thing that I really believe in. But then most important thing we always said, right, is to really try to capture the feel or the beat of the story that you're trying to capture and convey. And if I always do that, like in the post, after painting is finished, I kind of try to play around with the color adjustments and stuff to see if there's any better way to kind of accentuate the feeling.
Here's another example of a sequence from Toy Story where the toys have spent the night in almost like prison in the daycare.
Mm-hmm. And a daycare from the previous daytime, it was a warm and colorful and friendly place, and now it's really like a prison, like a gray, and it's not like colors of these bins and shelves and objects change. It's just that it's a process, the post-process. Imagine it's the way emotionally you're looking at these sequences. Influences the way you're perceiving visually. And we pushed it quite a bit. There's some people who are against it, but we pushed it.
Yeah, and the atmosphere too. Like again, like if you look at this, the kind of shots on the bottom there, you really see kind of that atmosphere streaming into the room. It feels so dusty. Mm-hmm. Such a sad painting, the bottom right one with Mr. Potato Head just defeated. But I think, the great thing to take away from this, right, is that the story is, a lot of people talk about story as king. Story as king means that your decisions are driving primarily, first and foremost, from characters, from things that are happening. I mean, you look at any one of these frames, and hopefully the mood and tone of our characters is very clear. I mean, Jesse and oh my gosh, Bullseye. I almost forgot his name. Jesse and Bullseye in prison, like there's no question about it how they feel. This is a down moment for them.
Yeah.
And post-processing, atmosphere, all help that. These are all tools that we always should consider in our tool chest to use to help tell this story.
This is a sequence from Monsters University. This is after Mike finds out that Sully cheated, even though they won the tournament. Sully.
Spoiler alert. Hopefully you watched the film.
Sully's, coming back from that, really difficult moment he just had with Mike. With this kind of olive green color, and again, there's a bit of a color theme going in the film, that I really want to bring it over. Not just from the light. If you look at the shadow side, overall it has that kind of a look. at least my job is to really figure out what it will look like in the end, to capture that feeling. Of course, we have to talk with so many other people to make sure that what's achievable, how. But I don't know if it actually matters in the end, whether we achieve it in post or we achieve it in just physically. I don't think we can actually achieve this just without using post-process, though.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, in CG animation overall, I'd say that you're right. You don't have to know every little thing about how it gets there, but it helps to explain to kind of the hundreds of people that end up working on the film. Mm-hmm. It helps to explain a little bit of like how this image came to be and how, you imagine. Because, for instance, this background here, we've seen previously at night at the same time of day almost, and it wasn't this kind of light.
Right.
It was like a beautiful orange kind of glowing light. So, someone who's lit the other building in a film like this is going to ask, what? Like, what? Suddenly, magically, the light changes color?
Exactly. Well, the hope is, not the hope, but your calculation is that the people don't pay attention to that. If people are following the story and emotion of the characters, that this is only are going to support their feeling, as opposed to like, oh, wait a minute, the light wasn't like that before, then you fail. If you push too far, it does happen. If you push too far, you could potentially throw audience out of the story.
So in kind of closing this lecture before we get into demos, one thing I do want to talk about is the fact that processing, this kind of post-effect thing, how important is it that you understand it? I don't know. Because in the end, like we said, it's really about effectively telling a story. However, I would say it's not going to hurt you to kind of study it, to look at film. This is something that's interesting because I feel like you can't go out in nature necessarily and go observe this. Yeah,
you just have to really study and equip yourself with these powerful tools, visual tools, to give you a wider range, to tell your story. It doesn't necessarily have to be your tool. If everybody has a different preference, but it's a powerful tool.
Absolutely. Great. Let's move on to demos.